guys, it's Sky bringing another video. So I want to talk about, the right time to transition. When is the right time to transition? And I think this is a very important topic because, there was times in my life where, I was thinking about making a decision, but there was so many variables in my life of why it wasn't a good time to transition. So, I do want to talk about this. I mean, the truth of the matter is everyone's different. And to some people, there might never be the right time to transition. Unfortunately, we have, so many different obstacles in our lives that make it very difficult for us to be ourselves. Whether it's people judging us, whether we're worried about hurting our families, whether we're, in my book out too, in my life, I'm religious. So, I always felt, I was a disappointment, and, that could be very destructive. And I was like that with myself. I told myself so many negative things, but I wanted to be a good person. I wanted to do the right thing. And my whole life, I struggled. I fought, but it's a fight you cannot win. And, it's hard to ever really tell somebody that doesn't feel like I was, somebody that doesn't feel like they're transgender. It's so complicated, and some people have the easiest question, or the answer to things of, I would never do that. But if you aren't going through the same obstacles, if you're not feeling the same pain, if you're not feeling who you really are, you can't really comprehend what others feel. And that goes for me too, with other people around me. So, there was a time where, I was, I judged people. I judged myself. Like, it's how it was, because I was so negative on myself that, it kind of made me hateful in a sense where, I wasn't happy and positive. So, and this is a huge step. This is the most important step of, deciding the rest of your life. When I was a little kid at 5, I knew, I just felt different. I remember, telling my grandmother and just feeling embarrassed and broken. It seemed silly to her at the time, but, I don't think she really knew how much I felt it. I think maybe she just thought it was as a kid, it was just a phase. But, I always knew inside that there was just something different with me, and, I struggled with it. So it was a huge challenge, and ever since that day, that I told her, I knew, I told myself, I wanted to transition. Not obviously I didn't comprehend it at that time, but I knew who I was. I knew how I felt. It wasn't until later on that, I felt like I'll never be myself. If you were to tell me I'd be here today with who I am, I would have told you that's a dream. That's crazy. When I was growing up, it wasn't very common. It wasn't in the news like it is now. So it was very, very confusing. Obviously for certain people, they're never going to think it's positive that, it's out there in the open about who we are as transgender people, and the fact that we're, getting the first in a lot of different areas of what we're doing in this world. And people are always going to be negative about that, and I always try to look at every side. I want to be, I want to be fair about everything in this world. I don't want to be treated, extra different. I just want to live my life and just be happy. So, it's a struggle, and to, find that right time to transition, it's never going to be there. I believe that there are better times than none. So sometimes things happen for a reason. And in my eyes, I sometimes think that I do wish I transitioned sooner. But I wouldn't have went through the certain challenges that I've had. I understand that I could have, saved from hurting people. But I also, learned from these people. And, that they taught me how to be stronger. So as much as I think about the past and I think about the decisions I could have made sooner in my life, I felt like I could have saved time on everybody's side, So when I was in my teenage years, I thought about it. I was really depressed. I had a lot of anxiety. I was struggling in school because I didn't know how to fit in. And, it was just, it was so difficult because I couldn't really, concentrate in class. I just, when you're not happy with who you are, it's very hard to slow down life. You don't care, you're not trying to better yourself. It's hard to want things out of life when you don't even feel like you're filled with life. So, it was very destructive. And when I started getting older, I know there was people out there that were transgender. I felt when I was younger that I felt it was like more of a fetish. I feel like we were freaks, and that's how I felt about myself. And that's sad that I felt like that, because the person I am today, I don't feel like that. I'm trying to be a nice person with a good heart that wants to do positive things in this world. Just like anything in this world, just like all groups, there's good and bad in everyone. And, to judge a few people towards a group, that's very hard to do, because not everyone's going to ever be bad. There's good people in every group. So, and it was very destructive to feel that way about myself, because it started getting to a point like I felt like I was a bad person. And it became very, it wasn't positive, it was negative. It kind of, I always had a good heart. So that kept me from, ever really just becoming lost. Obviously I struggled and I was in depression, and, there was times where I was suicidal, but, I fought it. I kept fighting it. I was alone. I secluded myself from everyone. Yeah, I had a couple friends, but they didn't know about me. There's no way they could know, or they wouldn't be my friends. They would never talk to me again. I'd be made fun of, and then I'd really be struggling. So, I really fought it all off. There was a time when I was about 19, 20, when I was wanting to take hormones off to the side without telling anyone. And I did. I spent a lot of money to, secretly transition. But, it was very difficult, because back then when I did that, I didn't have any direction. I was, I ordered stuff from overseas, and just, it wasn't good. It was unresponsible. It wasn't responsible at all. It was really bad. So, you really need to make sure you are, in the right environment, and you do it the right way, because it's important that you get everything monitored, because, there's always chance of, something bad happening when it comes to hormones. So, please take it seriously. I was desperate, and I was struggling, and I didn't care, if I couldn't transition, I didn't care what would happen to me. That's just how I felt. I felt if I couldn't live my life, then I couldn't live at all. So, and, I did it for a few months, and, I ended up just stopping. I wasn't consistent with it. I worried about getting halfway through the transition and not being able to fully do it, and be stuck in between where I didn't fit in, at all. I didn't, I was scared of that. So I stopped, and, it was difficult. And, time passed by, and I got into law enforcement, and I did that for, 7 years, and I was trying to be, responsible. I was trying to make my parents proud. I was trying to be what, I thought that wanted to me, to be, and I wanted to be that for them. I wanted them to be proud of who their kid was. I wanted to, get to the point financially where I could, help take care of them. And unfortunately, they've had to look after me my entire life, and that kills me, that I felt like I was a burden for so long, you know and I struggled to find my place to really change things for them to be able to help change my life, and it's transitioning and finding the right time is very difficult. Back when I did it, it was all money out of our pockets if you were going to do the transition. There was hardly any medical doctors or endocrinologists that were out there to help us. There was, and if they were, they knew they could take advantage of us, and they would make it where it was extremely expensive for us to get the right meds to start our transitions. So, and no medical groups covered it because, of where it fell in the category. I don't know what it is now. I know it's getting better. So it's very complicated because there's always going to be people out there that feel like that there's something wrong with us, that we shouldn't get help to transition, and that's always going to be someone's opinion. They're free to that. There's always going to be people that judge people for all kinds of things. So it's very difficult because you need to be in a positive environment. You need to have obviously money. Nowadays you could have good medical care that could help you in that situation. So, and everything costs money, and even after you start your transition, some people get facial reconstructive surgery where they get things done. Fortunately for me, I didn't really have any money for it, but I didn't want to do it anyways, so I didn't do that. But I had SRS almost 4 years ago. It'll be 4 years in August, and that's expensive. I went to Thailand, so it was definitely a lot cheaper, probably half the price it would have been if, even maybe more than that if I would have done it here. And I still went to one of the top doctors in the world that does that. So I was really grateful for that, Dr. Supon. So he was amazing. I had a great experience. I was out there for a month. Yes, it was miserable, but it was one of the biggest things in my life because it's changed everything for me. So it's definitely been a crazy journey, but you really have to plan all this. I was really irresponsible in a sense that I didn't really get everything in place. Like I kind of just rushed into everything. So it's important. That's why I want to share with you guys, because once you guys, if you're really serious about transitioning, if you feel like you can be strong and be yourself, then plan it out. Get your things in place, because it's really important to get a positive foundation, a strong foundation around you, because it's as much as it's changed my life, it's probably one of the biggest struggle in my life to accomplish. And I'm grateful for where I am today, but I also had a lot of amazing people that have helped me get here. I really am grateful for what I have. It was about 28 when I finally I have to do this. I need to, make this change. I need to, really focus on, improving my happiness, because, I was being destructive, not only in my own life, but I was so depressed and down and, negative that I was bringing other people down with me. So, even though it was, sometimes feeling it was a selfish decision because I did it for myself and I hurt other people, it also meant to be positive because I want to build those relationships back up with the people around me and show them what kind of person I always was, but what I was struggling with. So, at 28, I finally, somebody told me that if you can't be happy with yourself, you're never going to make anybody else happy. And that stuck with me, and it still stuck with me because that was the change. I was going through a lot of depression and I hated it. I wanted to change things. I was tired of the broken cycle that I was in. I was tired of not functioning in society, of just closing myself off and, not interacting with people. I felt so lost, so I made that decision. I finally got the courage to go see a therapist, and, sitting down, talking with them and helping them, you know, helping me to understand myself was one of the biggest things, because it really got me the strength to, start my process. I was scared. I was scared of, the interactions I was going to have in the future, of people being critical of who I was. So I had to prepare myself for that. And it was important to have a therapist in that situation, because they're able to share things, positive things with you that maybe somebody else didn't understand. So, it was huge. So having a therapist in place helped me a lot. I know other people's backgrounds with family is different. Mine, growing up, I didn't think they're going to take it very good. There weren't like, they don't hate people like me. They just didn't understand, so, but I never talked about it with them. I actually came out to my mom when I was like 21, but she thought it was just kind of like, I guess, cross-dressing. So it's like, I'm sure that, kind of made her a little like weird about it. And I understand, things that are different that you don't understand are going to make you feel that way. But, I don't think she comprehend still how much it really, like, that I wanted to transition. I think she just thought it was just something that I did off to the side, which I never felt. That was never me. I never, liked just pretending to be something. I always felt that I was a woman. So, it was very, it wasn't like I wanted to, do both. I just felt comfortable just being like this. So, I, try to explain it to her, and I was hoping that I could start it then, but it just never caught on. And, the interaction I had, it kind of made me a little insecure about if I could be successful with it or not, because if I feel like I didn't have, my parents' support, that I would have been alone, completely alone. So I was about 28, 29 when I finally, luckily enough, I had a friend that, went and talked to my parents and kind of, opened them up to it. And then, I went to talk to him later in that day, and I told him how I felt. And, coming from, my dad's really religious, and, we were having conversations, and, I've read the Bible, and, I know things, and, that was one of the things he says, maybe give it some time, maybe, try to pray and things like that. And the thing is I always have, like, I tried my best, and I fought, and, I don't know if he really fully thought I did, but, I really did try to be strong, but it wasn't going anywhere. And, I just felt like if I would have continued down that road, that, something bad would have happened to me, and I would have been in a dark place my entire life. And every day, every year that was passing by, I just had so much regret. I just felt like I was wasting so much time. And even now that I'm finally transitioned, I still kind of missed a lot of opportunities in my life, missing dances, missing parties, missing just having, a good time with friends. And I think if I would have done it, early on, it would have been easier to connect with people, because I would have been able to build friendships up earlier in life. I'm older now, so it's, it's harder in a sense, because, people have families, and they're busy, and, they have their own lives to worry about. So, that's always been very difficult too. I think that's why I've connected with younger people a lot, because, of not really being able to go through certain times in my life. I felt like I missed out on that. So, I don't want people to have regret, because that's one of the worst feelings ever. Like with somebody that didn't play sports in high school that wish they did when they get older, they're like, they always regret taking that chance, and seeing what would have happened. And the same for me, and same for everyone, and that regret turns into negativity, and that turns into hatred and jealousy of not feeling like you could have, you wasted time of being yourself, of what could have been, so, it's important to really look at yourself and to think, what you want in your life. Don't ever feel pressured. It's got to feel right to you. It's got to be the right time to transition. And if your parents aren't supportive, I think it's good. I see a lot of people, they'll get careers, they'll save up money, they'll get themselves in place to financially be able to support themselves during the transition and not worry about having people be there for them. And that's sad to hear, but there's different ways you can do it. So, fortunate for me, I had the financial ability to make my transition. I wouldn't have been able to, fully transition earlier in my age. I wouldn't have had the money, and I wouldn't have, I would have been very reluctant to ask for help. That's just never who I've been. And, but for me now, I was able to, start my transition about 28, 29. I had a hard time finding an endocrinologist, like I would call doctors in Southern California, and I would be put on waiting lists because they were full. And, I was broken because, I was already started my transition, but I couldn't take hormones because I couldn't find anywhere that would, that would accept me. So I was still, so I went back to what I was doing before, and I was taking, hormones online from places that, I didn't know, and it was being irresponsible. And, and I just, before I didn't care. I was tired of being stuck going backwards. The feeling of never transitioning, you feel like you keep rolling backwards from where you want to go. And, that's very, that's very bad mentally. So, and luckily enough, I finally found a good primary doctor. That's another thing in place. Get a good primary doctor, a PA, a physician assistant who can understand you. I found a very good one that I'm her first transgender patient, but she, has been super supportive. She said I've, made her see things that she didn't see before and understand things. And we have a really good friendship. I come in there and she's interested in what's going on in my life. She's always positive to me. So when I was taking hormones and I opened up to her and I told her about me taking them and not having an endocrinologist, and I explained how hard it was to find somebody. And, she was very sympathetic to me, and she's like, what, that's okay. We'll get your blood work done and I'll look out for you. I can't prescribe you anything, but, if, I want to make sure you're good. So, I'm going to get your blood work done. And so she took care of me. And every time I went in there, when I was struggling to find an endocrinologist, she would always be, supportive. So, it was a struggle. And even my therapist, she gave me recommendations for endocrinologists, but everywhere I went, either they didn't take patients anymore, or, it was a waiting list. And, or there was private ones that were, it cost thousands and thousands of dollars just for, medicine that didn't cost that much, so they kind of take advantage of you in a sense. I think things have gotten better, but, it was very, it was very difficult because I'd call certain doctors too, and they'd kind of frown upon you. I felt like they were disgusted, and that was kind of sad. Obviously people are free to their own opinion, but, it hurt, and it kind of, I got to a point where I felt shamed, by even calling them. I was having, my sister-in-law at the time call and help me out with that, but, I couldn't come across the right person. And then, finally I found somebody, and she's amazing. She's, in Southern California, and it's probably been one of the biggest positive, boosts for me. Going to somebody not only that can help me, but she, understands me. She does not doing it just, as a career. She's doing it because she enjoys helping people like me, because she knows the struggle. She knows that there wasn't many people out there to be there for us. And I see her more than just, an endocrinologist. She talks to me. She's almost like a therapist too, because she talks about, my feelings and what I'm going through. So she helps me out with that. She gets my blood work done. She looks at my other medical levels to make sure everything's good, because she actually truly cares about me. And she's opened me up to possibilities of different types of, estrogen, ways to get estrogen. So, there's different ways you can take pills, there's shots. But the thing I talked about before that I've been doing is actual under the skin patches that they're time capsules, time releasing capsules. So, they're good for about 4 to 6 months. They, make a little incision on your butt and, and then they put it in there, and then, it's nice because you don't really have to worry about it. You don't have to stress about it. I was giving myself a shot every week, myself. And that's something that, it doesn't hurt, but it's like psychologically it gets kind of, just old, I guess you can say. So, I was doing that for a couple of years, give myself shots. So I'm glad that I was able to, get out of that. And I don't want to take pills. So I already have arthritis so I have to take medication for that and stuff. So, I don't want to take too many different things. So I already take a pill for progesterone. So it's definitely been a positive change. I've only had the under the skin capsules for a couple months now, and nothing but positivity. I have felt pretty consistent, which is new to me, because with the shots you feel a lot of energy at the beginning part of the week, and by the end of the week before you take another shot you kind of feel a little lazy and just not have energy. So this way is supposed to be a lot better, so I am enjoying it, and so far it's been really good. But I'll keep you guys up to date on that because it's actually something new. So I'm happy with it so far. And then, like I said, progesterone, but I had SRS, so I don't have testosterone no more. I don't produce it, so I don't have to get testosterone blockers. But that's something that somebody starting a transition will definitely need to take. I would say that's probably the most important thing, especially with your transition, because that's what's going to help start your transition. So there's so many different things, whether it's a therapist, whether it's endocrinologist and a primary doctor. You need these things in place as a good foundation to help you really start your journey. And it's a beautiful journey, depending on obviously who you ask, because everybody's going to be critical about it with their opinions. But for me it is a very positive experience that really makes you excited once you start that journey, and you finally feel like you're headed towards the person you always felt you were. So you no longer feel like you're wasting time, because you finally feel like you're working up to yourself, to who you always were. So, and something that I wanted to also do too is get a speech therapist. And she, like I told you guys in the past, she's amazing. Like, just like my endocrinologist, she is more than just a voice therapist. She's also a good therapist. She listens to me, she cares about me, and I was one of her first patients. And since I became her patient, now 60% of her clients are transgender people. So I feel like that was a really positive thing for me, but for herself too, because she's learned so much about us. She's learned, what we go through, and she has really started to, she has support groups now that she has come in and do voice training together. And it's amazing, because I've never been, I've always closed myself off, so I've never been part of support groups. But last year I started going to it to give it a chance, to meet people. She wanted me to come there not only to continue to do voice training, but she wanted me to I guess be an influence for the other women, because of that I've had really good success with her and how far I've come, because she's seen the beginning of my transition to where I am today. So it's been amazing, and she's seen every part of it, every way, and she's always been proud of me and tells me how successful and I've been, and how amazing my transition has been. So it's been a very good learning experience. So of having all those people in place, but they're not just good at what they do, they're good about connecting with you, and having somebody to listen. Because even though that my family's supportive, they're not very good about talking to. I don't have anyone in my family where I can just sit off to the side and share my feelings with. I love them and they're kind people, but we don't have anything to connect with. So, I'd say probably the closest person that I talk to, which I don't talk to, is my brother. So but like I said, they all are supportive. My brother was the first one I told of my family, and it was actually at work because we used to work together. Like I said, I was in law enforcement, and I was just telling him, I told him I'm transgender, and he's like, well, he didn't understand it because he doesn't, he didn't know about it, and he never, shamed me, never said anything bad about me, and from the start he was positive. But what's crazy is he was so into it, so he had so many questions, like talking to me, and asking me questions that night, and I was really relieved. It brought such pressure off of me, because hiding who you are, it can be very draining, and it's like a weight is lifted off your back when you finally come out to tell, your family. And you got to prepare yourself that you might not always hear the right thing. So, luckily for me, I have kind people that are around me, and my parents and brother that, even if they didn't agree with it, they still were supportive. So, I'm grateful for that, sitting down and talking to my parents and them just listening. I was grateful. I even to this day, there's something that I can never express my gratitude for, was when, my father went with me to Thailand, because I was going to go by myself. Like, I hadn't, I didn't care. I was going to go by myself. I was scared. I was frightened, but I wasn't going to say it. I would have still went by myself and been strong there. But honestly, as much as haven't been able to connect in our whole lives together, that was one really, unselfish thing that I can never repay him for. And I'm grateful for that, because he helped take care of me during that time when we normally don't see eye to eye, and that's something that I can never, ever, repay to him. So, as much as we've had our struggles, as much as we had our differences, there's things that, people have done to help me that I can never repay for. So, I think it's really important too to have friends around you that care about you. And that's another thing. Like, most of my friends before my transition, they're gone. During the beginning of my transition, I met a lot of amazing people, and a few of them became really close friends and are supportive to me, and became a positive support group for me that I can talk to off to the side. So I'm grateful to these people, because they mean the world to me, that they're there for me during my darkest times and during the most challenging times. So when I say a strong support system, it's important to build up the people around you. And, luckily I was able to do that, to get to where I, wanted to be. And another person that's extremely important for me, because I chose to have the surgery. It's not for everyone. You don't need to have it to be, yourself. For me, I did. So I studied, I compared, and I decided to go to Dr. Supan, who's in Thailand, and he was an amazing guy, or man. Like, he was an awesome surgeon, but he was also a very kind person that cared. Towards the end of the trip in Thailand, we actually went to one of his houses, and it was by the beach out there, and it was beautiful, and it was a very cool experience. I was able to see the temples and stuff like that. So, it was a very unique journey, because for the most part, I've never been out of the United States. So, it's this whole transition for me is more than just a single day. It's a process. It's, it's a kind of like a timeline of a change of who you become. So it can be, if you look at the right way, very beautiful experience. So, if you do, decide to do the transition, make sure you take care of yourself, get your blood work done, find the right people. Don't feel like you need to, be somewhere where they don't want you, because there's people out in this world that do want to help take care of you, that want to, help you transition. So find those people. I did so much studying on the internet. It is really positive now that we have the internet. When I was younger, we didn't, obviously the internet wasn't as big. So, now there's so much more resources out there. There's so much more people posting stuff about what they use and what helped them. And, if anybody ever has questions to me, I'm in Southern California. So, that's about the only place I could really help you at. But I've had really good experiences out here. And I honestly think that, having these certain doctors and therapists in place really help. And the fact that you throw in a speech therapist, because I was always worried, like trying to figure it out my own, of, figuring out the whole voice control. But going to a voice therapist, somebody that understands the voice, somebody that understands how to unlock your natural voice, is extremely important, because they can criticize you in a positive way and help you become, the best version of yourself. So, I do suggest that to people, because if you, and unfortunately, you have to have the finances, everything costs money, unfortunately, but, that part is very difficult. That's why I do my best with these YouTube videos, because I want to be able to share my experiences with you guys to, help with your guys' transition, especially if you don't have a good support system or, a good, foundation within your family. And not only that, but the right, of doctors in place, therapists in place, I'll do whatever I can to really share what I've been able to go through with you guys. So, and like I told you guys, I want to make a video about voice control, again, about apps I used, about, exercises that I used that really helped me get to where I am today, of finally feeling comfortable and natural with myself. So, I'm going to continue to share these with you guys, these videos with you, and continue to, help anybody I can. I'm sorry that, some of my videos from the start weren't very informative. I'm do my best to describe as much detail as I can with everything I've been through. Now that I've experienced more, now that I've grown more and matured, I do feel like I can share more and be more experienced in what I'm talking about, because I've, went through these emotions for such a long time. So, but obviously there's never a right time to transition. There's better times, because like I said, I wouldn't have had the finances, younger on. I wouldn't have been able to be as strong as I am today, enduring certain things, and, getting to a place where I felt I had to make a decision, is really what helped push me to transition and to make it a positive transition. So, and I've been able to change people's minds about me. My mom was one of the people that said, "Are you sure this is what's going to make you happy?" And, after a few months, when I started my transition, she's like, "I see what you're talking about. I see you smile now. I see the positivity, and I've been able to really improve as a person. I still have so many flaws and so many things I struggle with, but, the consistency is what's the biggest change." So, find that foundation around you, and it could be friends, because friends really is what you can choose. You can't choose family. So if they're not supportive, there's so many amazing people out in this world that have come to me on Facebook off to the side, people that I don't even know that want to become friends, because, they see what kind of person I am, and, they want to be there for me. And that's amazing. I'm grateful for these people, and it's helped me care for others more than I ever did, because, I've always been a compassionate person for people, especially going through what I've gone through. So, I just want to share that with you guys. If you ever have any questions, I'm here for you. I'm going to start taking all this really seriously. So I want to make a private email just for people that have questions. I've talked about it in my older videos, and I made that mailing address, that email address, and, I kind of lost track of it. And, I got mad at myself for that. So I do want to take that more seriously, because I want a platform to be able to communicate with you guys if you have questions. So hopefully I can continue this for you guys. But if you guys did enjoy the video, leave a like. It helps me out. If you want to know more about my life, subscribe. I love you guys, and I will see you guys on the next video.